Hello dear students. Today we are going to discuss a play Nagamandala by Girish Karnad. So first of all, let's have a brief introduction of Girish Karnad. Girish Raghunath Karnad, who was born on 19th May 1938 and died on 10th June 2019, was an Indian writer, playwright, screenwriter, actor and movie director in Kannada language. He is a recipient of the 1998 Jnanapith Award, the highest literary honor conferred in India. For 4 decades, Karnad has been composing plays, often using history and mythology to tackle contemporary issues. He has translated his plays into English and has received acclaim. His plays have been translated into some Indian languages and made into films directed by famous directors. He was active in the world of Indian cinema as an actor, director and screenwriter in Hindi and Kannada flicks, earning awards along the way. He was conferred Padma Shri and Padma Bhushan by the Government of India and also has won 4 Filmfare Awards. Now let's have a brief introduction of the play Nagamandala. The play Nagamandala is based on the 2 oral stories from Karnataka that the playwright Girish Karnad heard from his mentor Professor A.K. Ramanujan. Through the play, Karnad exposes the exploitation and incarceration of women that occurs throughout the institution of marriage and how myths display the fears of men in society and are thus inherently patriarchal and are used in order to control and restrict the actions of women. The play also mocks the idea of chastity and aims at the emancipation and empowerment of women. Nagamandala is a play arranged in 2 acts. The story begins within a ruined temple. The playwright is seen in the ruined temple. The plot of the drama is double layered with the structure where the playwright himself indulges in conversation with the flames assembled in the ruined temple, and the other part consisting of the characters which appear in the story told by the character in the first layer of the play, that is story. There is a character called story in the first layer, and that story is narrating the story in the inside layer, the inner layer of the play. The major characters appearing in the second layer are Rani, Naga, Appanna, Kurudova and Kappanna. When the drama begins, the playwright is sitting in the ruined temple. Through the monologue of the playwright, the audience is informed about his plight. He is a person who is awaiting death. He can escape from the hands of death if he could keep himself awake for a single whole night of that month. It is the last day of the month and he is sitting in the temple. Then the flames of the village, retired after their day's work in the homes, assemble there for gossiping. They share the spicy issues related to the families where they burn up to the late night. Then one of the flames shares the news of the story and the song which had escaped from the mouth of a housewife. Later, the story and the song escaped from the mouth of the housewife reach into the temple, the story disguised as a woman and the song disguised as her sari. Due to the compulsion of the playwright, the story reveals her own plot before them. It is the story of a young woman, Rani, whose life has passed through unnatural circumstances. The story revolves around Rani, who was the single daughter of her parents. She has been married to Appanna at a younger age, but lived with her parents until she reached puberty. At that time, Aparna reaches her village and takes her with him. After bringing her home, he locks her up in the house and joins his concubine. He reaches home only for the lunch. One day, Kurudava, the friend of Aparna's mother, finds Rani locked inside the home. Hearing the sad story of Rani, Kurudava gives Rani 3 magical roots and advises Rani to give the magical roots to Aparna. It is the root which Kurudava used to ensnare her husband. At first, Rani tries the small root, but she could not win him. Next day, Kurudava advises her to use the bigger root. She prepares a curry with that root, but the curry turns bloody reddish. So she pours the curry on the anthill. There was a cobra living in that anthill, and due to the magical power of the root, the snake falls in love with Rani. At night, the charmed snake Naga reaches Rani's room through the drain of the bathroom. After entering the house, it takes the figure of Aparna and approaches Rani. At first, Rani couldn't believe the change in the behavior of her husband, who behaves differently at noon time and totally different at night time. But she adores Naga and their relationship continues for days. Soon, Aparna develops a doubt in the changed happy mood of Rani. He first brings a dog to keep watch of Rani. Naga kills the dog. Since the dog was killed by snake bite, Aparna brings a mongoose next. Naga has a tough fight with the mongoose and wins the fight. Soon, Rani becomes pregnant. Aparna, who had never touched his wife, gets furious hearing the news and calls Rani a harlot. He registers a complaint in the panchayat against Rani. Naga advises Rani to take the snake ordeal to prove her chastity and to escape from the punishment. In front of the panchayat, she declares that instead of the hot iron ordeal, she is ready to take the snake ordeal. She fears to undergo snake ordeal, but to escape from the punishment and harassment from Aparna, she goes to the anthill and takes the king cobra in her hand. She states that she had never touched a male except 2, her husband and the cobra. Then cobra climbs on the shoulder of Rani, and after that it returns to anthill. After her victory, she is adored by the villagers as a deity or a goddess, and Aparna leads a happy life with her. However, the playwright is not at all happy with the ends of the narrated story. According to him, the story has loose ending and it remained unfinished because of the disappearance of Aparna. Hence, he suggests alternative ends. The first end portrays the snake which is entangled in Rani's hair and is dead. In the second end, Rani protects Naga as a token of her gratitude. So that's the story of the play Naga Mandala. Now let's have some discussion on the theatrical technique used in the play. Girish Karnad has woven 2 famous Kannada folk tales together in Naga Mandala. The first tale narrates the typical feature of Kannada folk theatre, and the second one narrates the features of the plot. The first section deals with the paradoxical nature of the oral tales and the independent nature of the storyteller. The story has independent nature in the oral culture. 2 stories are interwoven in such a way that the characters mingle each other. This problem play starts in the ruined temple and ends in the same place. But the rest of the play is situated in the house of Aparna. It has utilized the entire possibilities of the oral performance and the Kannada Yakshagana tradition. Now let's discuss about the Indianness in Nagamandala. We all know that Girish Karnad always packs the stories which hold themes with universal nature in the atmosphere of typical Indian village. In Nagamandala, he deals the common issue of man-woman relationship. Extramarital affairs and the related issues are seen all over the world. He wraps such a story in the background of an Indian village. The story of Rani and Aparna happens in a village which is filled with superstitions. In the speeches of Rani and Kurudava, we can see many examples for such superstitions. The Panchayat is again an Indian element seen in the play. Rani has to leave her home after her marriage, and that is certainly a part of the married life in Indian culture. Treatment of the saints and the boon provided by them are the typical scenes in Indian mythology, and the same thing happens in the case of Kurudava. Snake worshipping is also seen in this play. In so many ways, Nagamandala exhibits Indianness to the core of the play. Now let's have a discussion on the snake symbol used in the play Nagamandala. According to myths of Indian culture, cobra is a creature which keeps vengeance against the people. It is also depicted as the symbol of sexuality. Here in the play, apart from the norms of vengeance and sexuality, Naga is pictured as a person who deeply falls in love with a woman. The desire for a human being is created in the mind of the cobra as a result of the biggest magical root used by Rani. But Naga appears as a lover who falls for his lover in tense. What he wants from her is her love and care. He rescues her and revenges upon the other creatures that Aparna had brought to keep her locked. He behaves indifferently when he happens to know that she is pregnant. He keeps silence even when Rani blames him for it. The whole thing which disturbs him is about her security from the society which is going to punish her for adultery. Thus, in the drama, snake that appears in front of us is not that of a revenging character, but that of a lover who deeply loves his beloved. Now, let's have a small discussion on how the play Nagamandala becomes a feminist play. Nagamandala is a folktale transformed into the metaphor of the married woman. It is a Chinese box story with two folktales transformed into one fabric where myth and superstition, fact and fantasy, instinct and reason, the particular and the general blend to produce a drama with universal evocations. The predicament of Rani as opposed to the name is deplorable than that of a maid. The name Rani ridicules at the Indian ideal of womanhood as the Rani or Lakshmi of the household. As Virginia Woolf asserts in A Room of One's Own, imaginatively she is of highest importance, practically insignificant. The play is based on a rural setting and centered on the life of Rani, who is the everyday submissive rural Indian woman who is married off to a man by her parents, who arranged the marriage without taking her wishes into consideration. Her husband, a rich man named Aparna, the word translates into any man. The name is a symbol employed by Karnad to highlight that this is the reality of most weddings that occur. It is to show how marriage is a patriarchal institution that has always been unfair to women. Rani goes to Aparna's house with the hopes of living a quiet domestic life that she has been conditioned to expect. But the reality she faces is horrendous. On the first day of their marriage, Appanna locks her in the house and goes to visit his mistress. This goes on every day as Appanna's treatment of Rani is subhuman and he neglects her needs. She is kept isolated from society, and due to the conditioning she has undergone in her patriarchal setup, she doesn't have the courage to question Appanna and better her condition. This stands to show that women in society lose the agency to question, but when they violate the prescribed patriarchal norms, they are questioned immediately. The same is not the case for men who are free to do as they please. The woman is portrayed as a dependent in all three phases of her life: as daughter, as a wife, and as a mother. Just like Rani's dependence on her parents when she was a daughter, and her reliance on Appanna when she became a wife, and Kurudava, in the case of Kurudava, she is handicapped without Kappanna, and she is in that mother stage. In Indian society, the woman is said to be complete only after marriage. However, paradoxically, she neither belongs to this world or that. That means she doesn't belong to her parental home or to her husband's abode. For the woman, the home is said to be an expression of her freedom. It is her domain. However, Rani is imprisoned in her own house by her spouse in a routine manner that baffles others with the door locked from the outside. She does not shut the door behind her like Nora does in a doll's house, but God opens a door for her in the form of a cobra. The cobra gets seduced by the love potion provided by Kurudava to Rani to lure pathetically her own husband, who turns a blind eye to her. The snake assumes the form of a loving Appanna in contrast to the atrocious husband at day. The climax is reached when Rani becomes pregnant and Appanna questions her chastity. Her innocence is proved by virtue of the snake ordeal that the village elders put before her, and she eventually proclaimed as a goddess incarnate. Appanna literally means any man and points to the metaphor of man in general, his chauvinistic stance and towering dominance to the extent of suppressing a woman's individuality. Rani endeavors to discover her individuality by seeking refuge in dreams or fairy tales and fantasies to escape the sordid reality of her existence. Rani's flight of the imagination transports her to a seventh heaven where her parents wait for her. So much for her aversion to the institution of marriage. Critics show her body as a site of confinement, violence, regulation, and communication of the victimized gender self. And they also point out how she later uses the same body to rebel, to subvert, and to negotiate her space in society. Appanna poses her as an adulterous woman, whereas he himself has an illicit relationship with a concubine. He and his hypocritical society questions Rani's chastity and sidesteps the validity of Appanna's principles. This is just a minuscule cross-section of the patriarchal society that we live in. In Indian myth, a miracle has been mandatory to establish the purity of a woman, while a man's mere word is taken for the truth, whether it be Sita, Shakuntala, or Rani in this instance. Again, the playwright is a man and the story is personified as a woman. So does man create woman? However, the playwright echoes that the story has an autonomous existence and lives by virtue of the interpretation and reinterpretation. Likewise, a woman has her own existence and lives by virtue of meaningful procreation. Thus, the gist of the framework of the story runs parallel to the theme of the main story. As Rani's role gets inverted at the end of the story and Aparna turns into a mere instrument to prove her divinity, likewise, roles get reversed as the playwright, a man who tells stories, listens to the story, or a woman. So that's all about the play Nagamandala. Thank you.